On Plus Politics tonight, Southwest governors are taking insecurity into their own hands, and also PDP governors say they are ready to pay the minimum wage. Is the minimum wage a party divide? Well, shouldn't the question be if the states can truly afford to pay? We have plenty of this and much more. I'm David Alabi, and this is Plus Politics tonight. Welcome to the show tonight. Now, governors of the Southwest Zone plan to hold a regional security summit. They have decided to handle insecurity before it escalates and becomes bold and really an unnecessary phenomenon that cannot be contained. Well, joining me to discuss all of this and more, I have Fulani in the studio. Fulani, good to have you join us. Now,
how are you?
Very fine, thank you. The Southwest governors met today, comprising of the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Rotimi Akeredolu, Dr. Kaide Fayemi, Seyi Makinde. The Southwest governors really met today, and the crux of the matter is to address the insecurity situation, criminality, banditry in the region. What do you make of this move, really?
I think this move is coming way too late. We've seen this happening. It's been happening. It's been creeping up to us over a period of time, and we all just sat down there and we're watching it. Now it has reached our doorsteps. We're now scrambling to do something about it.
But some would say this is a step in the right direction, knowing that it's a clean new slate of 4-year term now for some of these governors, again consolidating on past efforts, and even if no efforts were made, this time to start afresh. I
agree with you, but you see, this starting afresh, I'm wondering which direction. At this point in time, a lot of these governors already had the transition committee. They knew what they were about, right? They should literally hit the ground running. These are meetings they should have held before the inauguration, to decide how to go forward on security. I mean, Lagos, Ibadan, you can't even travel in the Southwest anymore. Kidnappings left, right, and center, and then. So what do they want to do about it?
Well, they haven't said meeting with stakeholders, and now when they even say bringing together all critical stakeholders, who do you expect to see in this meeting as well with them? And then also putting this in line with the call for state police as well and local government police. Do you think really we are having the right conversations? They are also going to reconvene on a later date for further deliberation, but we don't have details of today's meeting.
Okay, I think first of all, right, the call for state police and local government police is, I'm looking for the right word to use now.
Overreaching?
I think it is. Local government, yes, overreaching. State police, maybe. And the problem is that, the problem in Nigeria is that the state governor is his own, is the be-all and the know-all of the state. So he will have the police under his command. Now, if you have a state governor who's not too straightforward,
well, we put in checks in place, knowing that these are the tendencies that will play
but
out.
Let's look at the national police, the police as a whole. Do we not have checks in place? And yet, they still go about gun-toting, shooting people left, right, and center.
Well, that calls now within
so, I mean, that's national. We can't even contain that. You now want to bring it on the smaller level where it's just one man who's basically controlling them. I'm not sure that will really work. Well, the
recommendation has gotten to certain quarters, and hopefully we would have a review of that. But really now, let's also take a look at the call from Afenifere as well. Don't nod your head in that manner.
No, I'm listening.
The call from Afenifere also saying that, well, within the Southwest Zone, they have to take up traditional self-defense mechanisms. Do you think it's part of the conversations that are expected to be held with all of these stakeholders? Do you think this would be a worthy idea to pitch out there?
I think that with the level of insecurity right now, we need to use every possible
They didn't
weapon.
Explain what traditional self-defense is, but we know it applies somewhat, we could say, to, some have said voodoo.
Honestly speaking, with the state of insecurity in the Southwest nowadays, I think we can use any method whatsoever to curb it. It has really gotten to a bad state. People can't travel. It's just sad that it is now that it's gotten to a stage where the governors and people who are the elites it's been affected. That's why it's we're hearing about it now. When it was lecturers in university, it wasn't such a big deal. But now that they're kidnapping people who are part of the elite, now
if you were to be a special advisor on this board of governors now at this forum, what would be your advice really on the how to manage this situation and ensure that we nip this menace in the bud? Okay,
first of all, we need to get the communications companies on board. Because the truth of the matter is that this kidnappers, all these armed robbers, they have some way they communicate. And I don't understand why in Nigeria we can't take advantage or use the weaponry that we have that we can actually use. You get the communication company on board, you can track all these people. In fact, I read recently about the woman who was kidnapped, who said that at some point in time, a copter actually came and hovered over the settlement. And then they grabbed all of them and started pointing guns at them, and the copter left. So we do know that a lot of the people in the armed forces know the locations of these areas. But what are we going to do about it? I read another story of a guy who said the Fulani guy told him, look, we have to give returns to some person. So outside the immediate people who are causing this insecurity, they have, would you call them godfathers? I don't know what you call them, who are either giving them the weapons or who they have to give returns to. So these things are it's not just a case of we have armed robbers on the road, no. Or we have kidnappers on the road, no. It's a highly sensitized, it's highly, what's the word to use? It's something that is, that has been highly thought out.
Organized.
Yeah, highly organized, thank you for the word. Highly organized crime situation. And there are ways, get the communication company on board, begin to listen in on people's conversations.
But that's breaching also privacy too as well.
For certain locations. Somebody's kidnapped, you should be able to locate his phone. Yes, you should be able to locate his phone, locate all the phones in that vicinity.
And you also talk about utilizing intelligence. Now, one of the calls from President Muhammadu Buhari is the fact that in situations where we have insecurity, we have to call on the people, the residents within these communities to come out there, bring out the bad knots within the team. But we also find out that there have been instances where community leaders and certain residents rather shield these perpetrators, all in the name of God knows what.
Two reasons. I can give you two clear reasons. First of all, is the fear for their life. Is government going to keep them safe if they do come out? Yes. Are they going to be safe? One. The second thing is maybe that person is the person that is feeding on them in that community. So why shouldn't they shield him? So it can be a case of the Robin Hood.
What do we now do with the vigilante groups as well? Some have said that they are compromised individuals. Some have said, well, we should train them and then put them in some sort of the police unit. There have been different versions. But if you were to advise now, how do we also utilize the vigilante groups? Because they are closer to home, they understand the terrain, and definitely they would know how to fish out these elements. But some have said, well, they are compromised, so you can't really rely on them.
I actually don't believe that the vigilante groups, at least are compromised, no. Because they're, like you said, they're closer to home. Most of them are probably people living on the streets who've gotten together and gotten some extra security forces with them. So they're people that are really closer to home. And I think they're about the best set of people that we can use. I'll give you a small story. I had a friend who was head of vigilante in his area. They were so successful that they had managed to stop several armed robbery attempts. One day they actually came for him. They came to his house, killed his dogs, and shot him. And they told him clearly the reason why they were doing that. They said he had failed, because of him, a lot of their armed robbery attempts had been failed. And they kept on calling the police. Before the armed robbers forced their way into his house, they had called the police, and the policemen never came. Do you understand? So what I'm saying is that vigilante, they are actually I think, if there's a way we can manage them, there's a way they can be trained, I think they're about the best.
But do you think we've gotten to that point where we understand how to also utilize information, be it any form that the tip-off comes in and following that thread? Because if you look at advanced crimes, for example, just a single clue leads to the bigger picture. but we don't see any investigations. We don't know how to utilize intelligence. So if we are having these conversations with the same governors, with the same critical stakeholders,
David, you can't say that. You can't say we don't know how to utilize information. You will say we are selective with the way we utilize information. I mean, there's so many, there's sometimes when the police comes and they've caught a group of people on a tip-off. It's not like they don't know how to utilize it. I think what we do is that we're very, very selective on which tip-off we utilize.
But the problem of insecurity is a general problem, and that's why the governors are meeting. I
mean, I hope and I pray that this meeting is not just it's not just a show face. Yes, I hope that they will, because they've claimed that they will remit, but they didn't give us a date. So I really won't take it too seriously, because if it's something that is on top burner for you, you would have a date when you're meeting again. By this time, you say, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. By this time, we would have gotten this feedback, and so we will meet again at this time. Do you understand? Okay, maybe some of them haven't appointed their security advisors yet and all that yet. So they should be able to say in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, we should meet back on this issue. But the security issue was just one of the reasons why they met. There were other issues on the table. So I don't think it was something that they were really serious about. It was
you're saying it's not a thought-through agenda?
I really doubt it.
It was just put there on the sidelines. Do you think that's the problem of the country as a whole now, that we take security as just being on the side and not the front burner?
Well, yes, that's used to be. I think now people are taking it a bit more seriously, because it's affecting. I mean, look at the Abuja-Kaduna road, for instance. Right now, people can't travel by road. All the elected officials are going not only by rail, but the rail line is being escorted by a copter, by a Navy copter, because they begin to understand that this security thing is a real deal. Yes.
But do you now think that these states as well within the Southwest Zone have the ability in terms of funding to be able to address insecurity? Because when one would say you are tackling insecurity, it's a pretty much expensive situation, talking about equipping the police or the security apparatus in the state, ensuring that they are well funded, they are able to get equipment and a whole lot more needed to checkmate the level of insecurity. We have all of these states also taxed with other issues, salaries and other things are not just working.
First of all, it's not the business of the state really to equip the police. It's national. It's not. It's the federal body that deals with the police.
Well,
it's
you heard
really
Mohammed Adamu as well when he was called over to the Senate. He said, "Well, the issue here is funding." So now, if the states decide to take it upon themselves, they've said it's time to take the bull by the horn by themselves. So what sort of funding strategy do you expect they would bring forward?
The truth of the matter is that, just before we came on air, I was talking about having gotten a list of all the internally generated revenues for different states. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it anymore. I mean, Lagos State alone generates 238 billion in IGR, generated in 2018. I mean, how much of that would you put into security? Security of the lives that matter to you. But you see, the problem is, a lot of them, the lives really don't matter to them. Because if the lives matter to you, you find out that security is one of the major, it should come first, right? Or maybe second, after, if you ask me, education. Everything else is secondary. Because you see, if your lives are not secure, even if you collect the salaries, there's no guarantee that that salary you will get home with it. There's no guarantee that you will survive, you will be alive to spend that money. So the first thing, one of the most important things here is making sure that lives are secure.
Well, in making sure that lives are secured, one of our governors actually said that there is no how any state governor can say he or she can root out insecurity in the country in their own state. So now, possibly now with this joint effort, really, do you think we would have that unified, that synergy, or that joint effort?
If they really wanted to do it, if the governors were really being upfront and truthful, yes, that synergy will really help us. Because if you look at the The insecurity, it started way back in 2015, 2016. It started creeping into Ondo State, to Ekiti, and now it's gotten as far as Ife, Ibadan. And very soon we'll see it creeping into Lagos. I mean, if you look at Lagos now, there's so many shady characters up and down. So it's creeping into Lagos, you know. So the truth is, if we can hold it before it hits, the better. So I would say that synergy, yes. It should give a push if they are honestly sincere about it. Yes.
Would you say any state governor who is not able to deal with the insecurity situation in the state should resign? Some have said drastic situations call for drastic measures. Pull the bulk on the governor's table as he is the executive officer there in charge. If they can't do the job, get somebody else.
No, but see, is it only insecurity we're talking about?
No, you know, the focus on
the honest truth is, look, in Nigeria, we've never had, I'm yet to see the state governor who has resigned, right? And the truth of the matter is that there are only very few states in Nigeria that are working, really working. So even if you ask the state governor, we all know they're not going to resign. So why are you going through the process of, for me, it's a waste of time asking. Well,
since it's a clean new slate of 4 new years, it's time to take action. Forgetting about our previous narrative or the old culture of just letting things slide or sweeping it under the carpet.
You know, on this insecurity issue, a couple of days ago, the former president, General Olusegun Obasanjo, started crying about Islamization and Fulanization. Right after him, Cardinal Olubumu Okoje also threw in his own bit. Then, for the first time ever, Wole Soyinka Prof actually is on Obasanjo's side. I mean, so we can see that this has actually become a top burner issue. Not only for the Southwest, for the entire country. Now, if the Southwestern government, and the truth of the matter is that, let's be honest, Southwest has always a lot of the times been in the forefront of stuff like this. So if we can come up with something that would make a change, that will make a difference, it will be very good. But the honest truth is, apart from insecurity, there's so many other things.
But what was different in the last 4 years and now?
Between now and last 4 years, what are you saying? Nigerians,
the response
before the last before the last 4 years, people were living off the process of corruption. They didn't need money. But in the last 4 years, corruption has not really shown. I mean, the proceeds has not really shown its face. It's been hiding somewhere because people are scared of what might happen to them, and so it's not trickling down. So you have a lot of people who used to live off corruption. And now they can't do that anymore. So they used to live above their means, now they're forced to live within their means. And so you have people complaining about there's no money, there's no this, there's no that. People who have been either jobless and they were just making money through the corruption. They were just
siphoning funds.
Yes, that's all they were doing. So now they're in a state where there's no funding. Those kind of people, because they're lazy, will go through the easiest way out. Get a group of people together, fund them, let them start doing kidnapping. And that's, if you ask me, it's the problem.
Would you be surprised if these governors don't necessarily touch or put a premium on the recruitment of our security apparatus? For example, the police as well. I keep on mentioning the police because they are the first point of call. Really now, so many have questioned the recruitment process of our police officers. It's not been the best approach so far. What do you think should be done differently this time around?
Recruitment of policemen.
Exactly.
Okay, so I don't know if you've ever been to the police headquarters, the one in Ikeja. Have you been there before? This is in shambles, maintenance very poor, the place is not. How do you want to recruit people, even if they come in with their heads on their shoulders?
It's clearly showed, looking at just how many thousands of police officers do we have, it's our reality is that it's just not enough. We don't even have enough police officers. So the ratio of one policeman to how many hundreds of people?
Okay, so maybe, just maybe, if we had policemen, if all the policemen we had were honest and truthful, right, maybe they would have a bit more impact. I mean, how many times do you drive on the road and the policeman is stopping you? He's not asking you for your papers, he's not asking you, And now we can.
So now, what do we have to do now?
That kind of person cannot
within
even
the recruitment
no,
process?
I think first of all we need to do a complete cleansing of the police force, which is almost impossible. You need to look at people. First of all, for you to be a policeman, you must be fit. You have policemen with giant pot bellies. You have policewomen with giant pot bellies calling themselves police officers. How? First of all, let's look in there and do a complete cleansing of the police force. And the truth of the matter is that they know themselves. They know the people who all they do is go onto the road and collect bribes. The police force can clean itself if it chooses to. But because they're all enjoying the proceeds, it becomes a tough thing to do. So before you even recruit, because if you recruit in new people, they're just going to follow the footsteps of people ahead of them. We're going to go back to square one. So it's not a matter of having 1,000 policemen. It's a matter, and that are not effective. I'd rather have 50 that are very effective, rather than have 1,000.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo also said that in terms of our security and other areas, that Nigeria is on the brink of having a breakthrough. With all of these manifesting now in Nigeria today, do you think it will be right or wrong to fault his statements, being optimistic that Nigeria is on the brink of a breakthrough, really touching on security? I honestly
believe that the Vice President was not properly informed. Either his aide on security, somebody didn't give him the right information. And that's the honest truth. And unfortunately for people in his position and position of the president, they have to rely on people to give information. There's no way they're able to get down to the people and get that information themselves. They have to rely on somebody. And when you rely on somebody who's giving you poor information, what do? You're going to have to speak based on the information that you're given. So if you ask me, I think that's also part of the problem we have.
The last resolve now, as they are meeting on the next date, what's your last words to the governors and then all critical stakeholders who will be present there?
Okay, so
speaking as a Nigerian now, heart to heart.
See, the truth of the matter is that first of all, we have to solve the problem of unemployment and people faffing around. We first need to, because the truth of the matter is that you can't put police, if the policemen themselves are faffing around, no matter how much you put them to take care of the insecurity, they're going to join. In the case of, if you can't beat them, join them. And that is part of what's happening in the country today. So I'll suggest that let's first look inwards, clean our house before we now start trying to get the right security conditions in place.
Okay, yes. Hopefully during the next meeting when they reconvene, they would have talks and improve on all of the strategies that need to be made.
We don't have any strategies now. They didn't give us any strategies. They just said they met and discussed insecurity.
Well, they can never reveal such information because it has to be confidential. If not, the perpetrators of evil also are open to all of these information.
David,
well, thank you very much for your time. For me, it's time to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the minimum wage and the PDP governors giving it a nod.